just exercise his energy in a wrong direction and a crime has been committed. So it is not surprising that most of the people that commit all these heinous offenses are mostly youth. Most of them hibernate in places in shelter. They hibernate and take shelters in shanties, illegal settlements within the city center, nearby satellite towns. These crimes have a particular trend and timeline. For instance, when you talk about car snatching, it's usually between the hours of 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. to probably around, 10 o'clock or after that. These are acts mostly carried out in malls, plazas across the city center. Heinous crimes like kidnapping, abduction are mostly prevalent in the outskirts of the city, mostly in rural areas. Now, we'll look at each crime and we'll speak to them. Well, it is not surprising that you have crimes like car snatching prevalent in city centers and then kidnapping in the fringes in rural area. I think commonsensically we know the reason why why these are, why we have this. It is easier to kidnap somebody in the fringes than to kidnap someone in the city center. Now, kidnapping is mostly perpetrated by male offenders. The age bracket is usually below 30 years, surprisingly. Kidnapping is perpetrated mainly at the fringes of the FCT, bordering other states, some remote areas in Abaji, bordering KOGI and Niger State, areas in Buari, bordering Kaduna and Niger State, some areas in Gwagwalada, bordering Niger State, areas in Kuje, bordering Nasarawa, areas in Kwali, bordering Niger State, and we have kidnapping in the city center is less when compared to the remote areas of the FCT. Now, armed robbery, perpetrators are mainly young men. Robbery is prevalent in the federal capital city. Now we're coming to use that very word, FCC. And that is why I took my time to differentiate, to tell the difference between the FCT and FCC. So where you have the work, and the reason is because, you have your working class, the affluent, living in these areas. The prevalence are mostly in areas like Wuse, Gerki, Metama, Asokoro, Apo, Lugbe, Gwarimpa, Kubwa, Nyanya, Karo axis. Now, we shouldn't forget that the story as it was previously is different from what we have now. There's significant difference. But we can't say for sure that these crimes have been completely eliminated. But I believe that with citizens giving giving the government the required assistance, information, and cooperation, we will definitely arrive at, we'll definitely create an ideal society for ourselves that is free of crime. We also have culpable homicide. Statistics shows that offenders are mainly young males. This crime occur mostly in the federal capital city, in the FCC. Then we have rape, perpetrated mostly by young males. And obviously, we know the reason for this. As you get older, the libido start dying and weighing off. But then it has to do with people that lack self-control and decency. Abuja Municipal Area Council recorded the highest incidence of rape. AMAC recorded the highest incidence of rape among the area council. Then we talk about banditry, prevalent at the fringes of the FCT, bordering states like Niger, Kaduna, Nasarawa, and Kogi states. Bandits are mainly young men with abundance of rural life experience. In some instances, record have it that some of the perpetrators are foreigners from neighboring countries like Niger, Mali, Chad, etc. Then car theft. The highest rate of car theft occurred in the federal capital city, FCC. Obviously, this is where you have the affluence, you have flashy cars, cars with that have value. Not when you go to the fringes. Obviously, going to snatch car over there, you might probably end up spending your money, probably snatching a liability. Then we have the perpetrators are mainly young men below the ages of 40 years. Drug peddling and related offenses, mostly male offenders with occasional female accomplice. Drug peddling is widespread in the FCT, including rural areas. The highest number of drug peddling offenses was recorded in the FCC, probably because of population concentration. Possession of illegal firearms. Illegal firearms are possessed by armed robbers, kidnappers, who are mostly young men. Proliferation of arms are more pronounced in the fringes of the FCT. That is, when you fringes of the FCT, when you talk about the rural areas. Vandalization of critical assets and infrastructure. In short, this is one of the most unpatriotic acts that we could ever experience. Imagine government putting in a whole lot of money in building critical infrastructures like rail and lights, street lights, and then you have somebody who is seeing this beautiful thing, and the person could only think of himself and what he could make out of the irons, the scrap irons, from which these materials were built. And then the next thing is start thinking of how to vandalize them. I find it very difficult to actually evaluate how a normal human being could sit and, think of such a crime. Now, who are the, we have vandalism are mostly perpetrated by male offenders. Babambola operators are responsible for most of the vandalism recorded in the FCT. The Federal Capital City recorded highest incidents of vandalism, and also we also have people who we could refer to as saboteurs. Probably they'll just, in order to score some cheap point, they would just decide that, okay, let us take this thing out. And the reason why FCC will record the highest number of such incidents is because most of the critical infrastructures, talking about street lights and other government infrastructures, are actually domiciled within the FCC. Yes, we have a lot of other infrastructure in rural areas, but these are infrastructures that sometimes are incapable of vandalizing. It will be difficult for people to go to the rural areas and start digging off or unearthing asphalts that are being used, to create good roads for the rural communities. Then we have the car-borne robbers, aka One Chance, mostly perpetrated by semi-illiterate offenders. Their operations cover all roads in the FCC and beyond, mostly carried out with unpainted taxis. Theft/burglary. The city center recorded the highest offenders, and they are mainly within the age bracket of 40 years and below. Now, policing strategies and effectiveness. I think the representative of the CP should be in the best position to explain the strategies, but also for security purposes and effectiveness, maybe this may not be the right forum to discuss, the strategies of the police, in dealing, coping some of all these crimes. But one particular strategy that I believe that most of us might have experienced is the fact that, anytime from maybe after 8 or 9 o'clock, we experience police all around certain areas in the FCT. They look very friendly, they talk to you, they don't harass you, but also this is a strategy. And the fact that, you just have to queue before you pass through also is a warning sign, is a warning to anybody who have the intention of perpetrating crime, knowing fully well that it will be very difficult for you to just drive fastly, or for you to move out of wherever you have gone to commit the offense. So these are some of the strategies, and again, you get close to them, you have to on your lights, they look at you, and most of them are experts. They can easily profile you, the mere looking at you. And I recall that a road safety official once told me that from afar, he can easily spot somebody whose driver's license have expired. Yes, or somebody that don't have a driver's license. And honestly, I think I agree with them, because there's a way your conscience will reflect in your face. So these people, most of them, they might look very, very pleasing to you or very friendly, but they have not lost focus of their job and what they were sent to do. So they can easily spot somebody who has bad intention. So with that, you'll be surprised that sometimes they'll ask a particular vehicle to park very well. They want to search. This is because their intelligence have told them that this person, we need further investigation on this person. And most of the time, they do a very good job. Then the FCT administration, under the leadership of our present Honorable Minister, have put in place a lot of intervention in order to cope this menace. First and foremost, with respect to the security agents, we have a monthly funding to all security agencies for effectiveness and efficient discharge of their assigned responsibilities. When I'm talking about monthly funding, we know very well that yes, security agents, just like every government official, they are entitled to their salaries and wages. But aside that, in order for them to be motivated, the FCT administration set aside certain funds in order to pay everybody who is tasked with, performing extra duty. When you see people who, some of the policemen who are, who you meet at night doing some of all these jobs while their colleagues are sleeping, yes, they are extremely motivated to do some of all these jobs. Not as if ordinarily when they are called upon to do that, they won't, but the administration feel, compelled and obliged that yes, you must reward people who have set aside, their time to do things extra in order to keep these, the community safe. Then financing tailored security operations, both in the city center and rural areas to rid the FCT of criminal elements across the territory. You know, we can't use the same, okay, we can't, use the same approach for everybody. Certain areas, certain crimes, certain demography will determine certain areas, certain demography will dictate the type of intervention that is needed. So once this is determined, then the administration will have to come in, finance it, and ensure that the desired result is achieved. Provision of modern crime fighting equipment such as vehicles and communication gadgets. Let us just leave it generic. Actually, there are a lot of modern crime equipment that we have, that the security agents have, to the extent that if actually they are determined to see you in any location within ABJ, they will actually see you there. If they are determined, they want to see you, they'll see you. So that is just in a bit to ensure that, crime does not go undetected. Establishment and funding of operational bases for both the police and military for wider reach. Joint task force on security in the FCT comprised of all security agents within the FCT. Now, short-term and long-term solutions, establishment of special anti-crime units for the FCT, setting up and deployment of technology in crime fighting and prevention. Achebe in Tears Fall Apart said that, I've forgotten the bird that said, since men, Eneke, yes, thank you, sir, that since men have learned to shoot without missing, that it has also learned to fly without perching. So I think even since the criminals are always developing new ways, security agents, they are also ahead of them. They are proactive to ensure that, even before they start thinking of what to do, we already have solution to whatever their ill thought will produce. And Light Up of Abuja, there's a complete scheme for lighting up of major streets and neighborhoods to enhance crime fighting. I recall that before now, we have certain spots. For those who live in Garki, they must have experienced a lot of changes in terms of provision of street lights. Not only Garki, even in Wuse and other areas. The whole essence, apart from adding to the beauty of the city, is to ensure that crime is exposed. And I don't think it will be quite very difficult for any rational thinking human being to think of committing crime when he knows or she knows that, yes, there's, he's been monitored, or even passerby can easily spot them. And in these ages of where everybody has a handset, you can be easily filmed. So the FCT administration feels that not just for the beauty of the city, yes, it's part of it, but also majorly to fight crime. This may not speak very loud, but it is very essential. I recall that there's a particular spot very close to the National Hospital area, Tiri, and some other places. Before now, I can tell you for sure that anytime from 10 o'clock, if you pass that area, you may likely get robbed. Your phone will be taken from you, and all those, other crimes that are perpetrated there. But with the lightening up of most of these areas, you discover that there's no longer hidden place for most of the criminals. So now, even when you pass through some of our bridges, you see that, yes, the administration have decided to even light up under the bridges, so that in such a way that people no longer hide and spring up surprises on passerby. So these are part of, the techniques of fighting crime. Now, accelerated infrastructural development, such as the transportation system, particularly the Abuja Rail Mass Transit Project, and opening up of rural roads for quick security intervention. Yes, when FCT administration decide to build roads, link up communities in the rural area, is not just for the purpose of access, for the rural community to be able to access one another, bring their goods, to the town. No, also for quick intervention, because the time between which a crime is committed and, the intervention, when security agencies will get there, is very, very important in crime prevention. Now, I'll also speak to certain intervention by some of the secretariats under the FCT administration. We know that if we go back to look at some of the theories of crime, specifically if we look at the classical theory of crime, we'll see that these are people, they advocated the fact that a criminal is a very rational human being that weighs the consequences of his offenses. And when he sees that the consequences of his offenses outweigh the reward, that the potential reward, he's most likely going to stay away from crime. Or, however, if he, from his own calculation, sees that the reward he's going to get from committing crime outweigh the consequences, then, as a rational human being, he's most likely going to dive into the offense. And then we'll also look at other theories that says that, look, crime is committed as a result of inequality between, people in a society. When some people do not have certain opportunities to achieve their goal, in order to achieve that goal, they will decide, they go into crime just to bridge, the gap, the inequality. So looking into all these different theories, the FCT administration have decided that, look, let's go into the fringes, into the rural areas where their life have been distorted, and see what we can help them achieve. In doing that, we shouldn't forget that we have to look at, the major disposition of these people, their occupation, and most of them are farmers. So the administration have decided that, okay, let us enhance them, let us assist them with whatever they are doing. With this, like this year alone, the FCT administration have distributed over 23,996 bags of palliative to them, talking about food, 100 metric tons of fertilizers, to ensure that, yes, farming season, they have improved seedlings and others. And we also gave them, the most advanced or improved seedlings to ensure that we have maximum yield. And this, in turn, will translate to to money into their pockets, and somehow bridge the gap, the inequality in rural lives. Not only agrarian farmers, we also look at livestock farmers, animal husbandry, provision of about 5,000 livestock and crop farmers as prospective beneficiaries. Profiling of 5,000 livestock and crop farmers, training of over 400 persons, including pastoralists, farmers, women, youth, and community heads on peace building, inter-community relation. Because no matter how much you give to people, some crimes are not as a result of inequality. Some crimes are as a result of long-held grievances between communities. We can't deny this fact. Two neighbors living side by side, and they hold so much grudges among themselves. So the only intervention that you can do in such situation is to, organize programs in order to train them, educate them, and disabuse their mind against one another. Training of 275 livestock farmers and pastoralists from 11 registered cooperative groups. Some of these groups are within the FCC, not just in rural areas. So if you are interested in agriculture and the rest, obviously you find, the FCT administration coming to your aid, irrespective of where you reside. Intervention through FCT special. Okay, because of time factor, let me go to transportation. We remember that the Honorable Minister informed the public that from next year, every vehicle that is involved in taxi or in the business of transportation will have to be colored, carry the FCT color. This is essentially to ensure that we reduce incidents of one chance. You can easily identify that, yes, this person is registered. Not only that, every taxi driver, especially those who are operating the e-taxi system, talking about Bolt and the rest, they're going to carry some special ID card. And those who are on hire purchase, who are on the streets, and who are just on the streets doing their taxis, they'll be profiled, and their identity will be linked to their national identification number, of which, once you enter, you board the taxi, and there's any problem, you get the taxi number, you make a report. The exact person can actually be brought to book if there's any problem. So these are some of the intervention. In short, the truth is, the intervention are more than this, but I just have to summarize for time's sake. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's give a round of applause to Mr. Salman Dako, the General Counsel and Secretary Legal Services of the FCT. You agree with me? He has carefully x-rayed the strategies on crime fighting from the Federal Capital Territory Administration. Let's give the Minister and his Secretariat and the administration a round of applause, please. I'm sure most of us, for the first time, heard a lot that has been done in terms of this fight against crime, and we take the direction from there. Can the Secretariat of Technical confirm if we can get Professor Benedicta DAUDU?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
We are eager and looking forward to hear your presentation. I'll give you an initial 20 minutes to start, and if you need extension of time, an additional 5 minutes. But before I take the other speakers.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma. You can commence.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry for the technical glitch. I suppose it was due to circumstances beyond our control. The indefatigable chairman and board of trustees of the Rule of Law Development Foundation, Chief J.B. DAUDU, SAN, my Lord Justices and learned senior advocates of Nigeria, fellow legal minds, as panelists and discussants, and eminent speakers, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you. I wish to express my gratitude to our patriarch, Chief J.B. DAUDU, for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts on this afternoon's topic. The Federal Capital Territory, FCT, as we know, is the nation's capital, and it was established in 1976, envisioned as a political and administrative hub that is designed to unify the diverse Nigerian populace. As the seat of Nigeria's government, it plays a central role in policy making and governance. In recent years, however, the FCT has encountered complex crime challenges which has impacted on the lives of residents, businesses, and governance. Given its status as a federal capital and as a hub for political, economic, and social activities. Hence its vulnerability to various criminal activities. Are we together? Can you hear me? Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Please proceed. You can proceed. We are following. We are listening.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So, examine criminal law enforcement in the FCT, focusing on crime rates, prevalent offenses, and demographics of offenders. We will also inform on the effectiveness of policing, administrative, legislative, and judicial interventions. We will examine the crime landscape, identify trends, vulnerabilities, and the impact of recent developments in criminal law, procedure, and evidence in curbing criminal activity. It is imperative for us to understand that crime patterns and trends in the FCT is crucial for several reasons. Firstly, it helps inform policy making because it provides crime data for law enforcement agents and policymakers to craft targeted interventions. Secondly, it helps effective law enforcement by identifying prevalent offenses and demographics of offenders, thereby aiding law enforcement agents to optimize their strategies. Above all, by understanding crime rates and criminal justice system, we can assure public safety for all and ensure that the FCT remains a safe and secure environment for residents, businesses, and visitors. Now, in terms of crime rates and prevalent offenses, the economic downturn, hardship, and rising unemployment have pushed more people into economic crime, particularly financial and white-collar offenses. Why? Because they want to seek illicit sources of income. Recent statistics indicate a rise in financial crime, cybercrime, and violence offenses within the federal capital, reflecting technological advancement and the accessibility of digital platforms. For our young boys and girls, for those who are tech savvy, they deploy this talent of theirs into criminality. They use it into cybercrime to extract money from people's accounts unknown to them. And they carry out all manner of illegal activities and criminality just because they want to get rich quick. They no longer believe in hard work. They don't even want to go to school for them to be able to attain the kind of heights they want to. The shortest way to get the kind of money they dream about is either they go into crime, into Yahoo, into cybercrime, or into politics. As far as they are concerned, you hear I want to be a politician or I want to be a Yahoo boy. They think that is the best way to get money. So, and again, we discovered that property crimes, such as burglary, theft, vandalism, are also very prevalent and often linked to what? Economic hardship and youth and unemployment. We have violent crimes, such as armed robbery and kidnapping, and this has remained significant, particularly in satellite towns and under police areas in the FCT. The demographics of offenders indicate that the perpetrators of these crimes are youth between the ages of 18 to 35, and they are disproportionately represented in crime statistics. Again, we discovered that young boys involve themselves in criminality more than the young girls. although of recent, female involvement is gradually on the increase. And of course, we have earlier on highlighted factors that exacerbate this crime. And in terms of socioeconomic factors, offenders often come from where? Low-income background. They come from low-income background and they want to live a kind of lifestyle that they can only imagine. Educationally, they are also of a low educational background. Hello? Hello? Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay.
Please proceed. We are listening.
All right. Low educational background.
2 minutes left.
And these are unemployed or underemployed individuals. Now, when we look at policing and crime control, administrative, legislative, and judicial interventions in the federal capital, we discover that as recent as January 2024, this year, a special intervention squad, that is SIS, which is a team of specially trained mobile police officers with a mandate to respond to security breaches in the FCT, was launched by the Inspector General of Police. The capabilities include rapid intervention, containing security breaches, and dismantling criminal networks. This special intervention squad is expected to collaborate with community leaders, residents, and relevant stakeholders, such as civil defense and so on, in curbing crime. Furthermore, in its efforts at controlling and containing crime rates, the Federal Capital Policing Framework involves a combination of federal agencies and specialized task forces. The Nigerian Police Force, along with EFCC and ICPC and other agencies, network, they collaborate and cooperate in order to address the worrisome issue of criminality, particularly in urban centers as like the federal capital, Abuja. However, limited resources, inadequate training, and systemic corruption challenge the effectiveness of law enforcement. Sometimes it cannot be the idea or the fact that there are limited resources, but that these resources are not channeled to where they should go to. Inadequate training. If you find out from the policemen, maybe the high-ranking ones are the ones that have attended training, but the lower cadre policemen and law enforcement agents hardly undergo any form of training. So they are not brought up to date to be able to fight corruption or to be or crime, or to be able to prepare themselves with the modern ways of fighting crime. There are modern technologies, modern ways to fight crime, which our law enforcement agents are not aware of. And even if they are, they just assume that, oh, this is Nigeria, it's better you deploy brute force, you know, to be able to achieve what you want. But that does not really have to be the way to go. So particularly in urban centers, we have this policing and crime control mechanisms to be able to take care of criminality in the FCT. Notably, community policing initiatives have shown promise in fostering trust between residents and law enforcement, although they remain underutilized. However, increased funding and capacity building for these initiatives can enhance crime prevention efforts, particularly in rural and underserved areas. Again, the Administration of Criminal Justice Act has streamlined criminal procedures across Nigeria that enhance efficiency in case management. We also have the Evidence Act, the Cybercrime Act, and the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, as well as the EFCC and ICPC. All of these measures are employed in combating criminal activities and revamping the community policing initiatives in order to be able to fight crime. Now, the emerging challenges, systematic issues, and impact. In terms of the emerging challenges, the systematic issues, and the impact that it has, we discovered that kidnapping, abduction, and threat of bandits are the emerging challenges in crime in the FCT. Reports indicate a number of kidnappings, and it is on the increase, abductions on the increase. And those are for the ones that are reported. How the number go unreported? You can imagine that for every 3, 4, 5 kidnaps that are reported, you can double that figure for the unreported cases. There are areas in the FCT between the hours of probably 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. where people can be kidnapped in the subways, in those corners, you know, where people can be kidnapped. Those in maybe between those hours that they can be kidnapped for as little as even 10,000 naira. Once you can ransom yourself for 10,000 naira, you're let go. All of that is because of economic hardship.
You have 5 minutes.
Then when you now
5 minutes left.
Okay. So kidnappings, abductions, and threat of bandits are some of the emerging challenges in crime in the FCT. These incidents are not isolated to the FCT alone, but have also gone on to other areas, you know, like the Lugbe, Kuje, Gwagwalada, and all of those Abaji and Sali areas. And huge payments are made as ransom to secure the release of kidnapped victims. So this recent development, particularly within the last 12 months, with the growth of population and the increase in economic activity, of course, Abuja has faced challenges in the rise of crime, cybercrime, financial fraud, violent crimes, and all of those. And in response, both legislative reforms and case law have evolved to shape criminal procedure and evidence standards, and to better address issues in these cases. Now, the defense of this crime, whereby digital evidence is used to challenge prosecution claims or to establish innocence. Others are data privacy laws, whistleblower protection, plea bargaining, and the rest. There are also the challenges of the legitimacy and the authority of how these offenses relating to these financial crimes can be prosecuted. We have other laws which are from the earlier discussants have extensively talked about. Those are the Cybercrime Prohibition Act, the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, Anti-Terrorism Act, and the Money Laundering Act. These I heard I was listening when they were discussed. So we discovered that with the rate of criminality on the increase in the FCT, a lot needs to be done because it is the federal capital. Now, we have talked about government, the FCT government, putting in place many mechanisms to fight crime. They have done a lot in terms of fighting crime, and some of these things are things that need to be put in place, that having put them in place can be adopted by neighboring states and other parts of Nigeria in fighting crime. We've talked about neighborhood neighborhood intelligence, you know, people giving information to the law enforcement agencies. We've talked about ICPC and all other agencies collaborating and cooperating with each other, giving each other information to be able to work in harmony and bringing criminality to a minimum as much as possible. Now, there's also this issue of taxis. The taxis that are in place, monitoring of these taxis with gadgets, you know, CCTV cameras being put in place so that activities can be monitored.
If you can,
so in order to be able to improve criminal justice and to position the FCT as a model for crime fighting, we will suggest and recommend that there is need to increase resources for community policing units, and they need to establish community liaison offices in specialized towns in order to bridge the gap between residents and law enforcement agencies. There's also need for government to invest in digital forensic laboratories and specialized cybercrime units that are equipped with latest technology like CCTV cameras placed in strategic places all over Abuja. And also for them to partner with technological companies in order to provide cybersecurity training for law enforcement officers. There's also the need to create a centralized intelligence sharing platform within the FCT, allowing various law enforcement agents to share real-time information on organized crime activities, and also to introduce data analysis training. As I said earlier on, many of these police officers of our law enforcement agents, they need to be trained on data analysis. Data analysis, they can capture all of this instead of using brute force, beating up civilians, extorting civilians, and all of that. These are things that make people want to go into crime. So they can introduce data analysis training for officers in order to improve intelligence handling and operations planning. There's also the need for publication of biannual crime reports detailing trends, crime hotspots, and resolved cases, in addition to establishing a crime data analysis unit within the police force, which will interpret crime patterns and inform strategic responses. By way of conclusion, we'll say that the FCT's criminal justice landscape illustrates both the challenges and potential strategies for crime fighting in Nigeria. With the proliferation of economic-driven offenses and advances in criminal law, it becomes evident that Nigeria's legal system must continue to evolve. The legal system must evolve alongside, and keep checkmating these criminal activities, because the criminals are intelligent. As they're taking one step forward, the legal system will have to take 2 steps ahead of them. Enhanced training for law enforcement, judicial reform, and improved legal defenses will be essential in addressing emerging criminal trends and socio-economic influences on crime. Legislative and judicial developments within the FCT will serve as a template for other regions, and with continued improvement, Nigeria can build a more effective, equitable, and modern criminal justice system. Sentencing reforms have begun to emphasize alternatives to incarceration, including community service and probation, particularly for non-violent offenses. Consequently, effective crime mitigation in Abuja, FCT, requires multifaceted interventions, enhancing policing, administrative efficiency, legislative framework, and judicial processes, coupled with community engagement and socio-economic development, with significantly reduced crime rates. Finally, sustained collaboration among law enforcement agencies, data-driven strategies, and continuous evaluation are crucial for achieving a safer and more secure Abuja. It behoves on all of us as citizens and stakeholders to take interest in ensuring and making sure that security in Abuja is our collective business. It is our business individually and collectively. We cannot leave it to only the law enforcement agents alone. We cannot leave it to them. There's only so much they can do. We owe each other a duty of care. Something is happening in your neighborhood, even before the police come, you can call them. We need to know the emergency police numbers. They need to be publicized. They need to publicize the emergency numbers in vernacular, in every language. There are some people who do not read newspapers. They can't afford to read the papers. They can't buy them, but they are very close to their radio. They are very, very close to it. So we need to get these emergency police numbers, you know, and disseminate those numbers through vernacular languages, through jingles, so that people will be aware that in case of emergency, you need police, you need help. Once you need help, these are the police numbers to contact, and it will go a long way. When we see something, we must say something. We should not just keep quiet and say it does not concern me. So when you see something and you say something, you will be saving a life. And that is why, in order to curb crime in the FCT, it is a collective effort that is required. All hands must be on deck. Thank you. Yeah. I'm rounding up, Paul. Yes, I'm rounding up. Thank you for listening. I'm rounding up.
Thank you very much, Prof. Prof, you know, as a teacher and as a lecturer, if we leave you, we'll be here till 6 o'clock. Unfortunately, we are very pressed for time. I enjoyed your very, very thought-provoking presentation. I did not expect anything less. You have given us the strategy. It's always our teachers that come up with the strategy on crime fighting. While you were giving your presentation, we were joined by the former Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice of KOGI State, Ibrahim Sani Mohammed, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Let's give him a round of applause. And you were also joined by Abdul Wahab Mohammed, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, also a friend of the foundation. So, we have heard the theory. We have heard the strategy for crime fighting. We have heard the suggestions. We need to invest in technology. We have to improve the capacity of our law enforcement agents by training and retraining. The FCTA has also told us what they are doing. There's significant investment in terms of manpower and resources. Obviously, we cannot have zero crime, but can we reduce it to the barest minimum? And so now, let's hear from those who are on the field. And I will start first with the drug problem. You do agree with me there is a drug culture slowly creeping up in Nigeria. The very young adolescents, not just elders, but young adolescents of ages I cannot even disclose to you, are involved in illicit substances. What is the strategy NDLA is proposing? I know some issues cannot be disclosed for security reasons, but we want to hear from NDLA in about 10 minutes what they are doing. Then we now hear the issue of trafficking, which is another problem. And we have NAPTIP also. So, Ijoma, please gather your thoughts. We want to also hear what you are doing at NAPTIP. And then we now hear from Madam Rebecca from the CSO angle on what should be done. So let's give a round of applause to the Acting Director Civil Litigation of NDLA, Mr. John Toriala Adsege. You are welcome, sir. Do you want to speak from the podium? Yes, please. You are welcome. You have 10 minutes.
Good afternoon, the coordinator, Rule of Law Development Foundation, senior advocates here present, members of the bench, seniors, my senior colleagues and colleagues. I want to begin by thanking the General Counsel and Secretary, Legal Services of the FCT for a job very well done. In fact, he eased or reduced tremendously what I have to do. He has given us or listed the drugs that are, the crimes that are prevalent in the FCT and the demographics of those who commit those offenses. My job now is just to add to the fact that while he was making his presentation, he listed crimes such as kidnapping, armed robbery, culpable homicide, one chance, burglaries, vandalization, rape and banditry. Yes. Depending on the physical or emotional scar those crimes leave on their victims. The lead presenter on her own part also listed offenses and dwelt more on violent crimes. We accept that as crimes that should be of priority to the government of the FCT. But we ask the questions, why would somebody push a person from a victim, a robbery victim, from a moving vehicle? Why, for instance, would somebody do that? Or why, for instance, would a male person maintain an erection, sorry for the members of the female gender, maintain an erection and have intercourse with a woman in the presence of her children? Why would that happen? Why also would somebody leave the comfort of his house to go to the wide jungles of Buari or Kuje or Abaji to go and cohabit with animals in the forest? Why would he do that? Why again would somebody shoot at moving vehicles without minding who the occupants are? The questions are legion. The nature and extent of the nexus between drug and illicit drug use and crime is not well settled. It will therefore be an oversimplification to conclude that drug is a sole cause of crime. However, it is indisputable that a person under the influence of drugs A person under the influence of drug is prone to commit violent crimes because he's emboldened by the drug to act in daring fashion. Criminal activity is reported to be 2 or 3 times higher among frequent drug users than among non-users of drugs. It has also been reported that the crimes of assault, robberies, and rapes result from users of marijuana, opiates, and heavy alcohol. Evidently, some users steal to support their drug use. Persons who are addicted but cannot afford the price of drugs will commit crimes to get money for drugs. You will find that there are certain areas in the FCT here where it is not safe, particularly for women, to move about in the evenings. It is either that their bags are snatched or their phones are snatched. This kind of petty thefts are perpetrated by young persons who need money to fund their drug habit. So the point being made is, what is really the nexus between illicit drug use and crime? Most of the crimes listed, the violent crimes, are as a result of illicit drug use. Drug users report greater involvement in crime and are more likely than non-users to have criminal records. More than half of the arrestees for violent crimes test positive for drug use at the time of their arrest. Crimes rise in number as misuse of drugs increases, particularly violent crimes and burglaries or petty thefts. So, what has the NDLEA as the institution saddled with the responsibility of checking or curbing the menace of illicit drug use in the FCT done? The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency has the responsibility of curbing the menace of illicit drug use and trafficking in Nigeria. This involves supply reduction. What do I mean by supply reduction? We try to cut the supply of illicit drugs from source so that it doesn't get down to the end users. And this we do, if you notice, the former Attorney General KOGI State is here. Each time he's coming from LOKOJA, he will, maybe our people will engage him at either Abaji or Gwagwalada. We have an interdiction point there because most of the drugs locally used in the country are brought from the southern part of Nigeria to the north. And KOGI is the belt between the north and the south. So our interdiction activities are intensified along that road from, I think, Ganaja Junction, or is it Natako, up here. You find a lot of interdiction points by the NDLEA so that these drugs don't get to the FCT at all. And we also engage in drug demand reduction. This entails carrying out sensitization programs to sensitize members of the public against the use of illicit drugs. We do that. We collaborate with schools, transport unions. We carry out awareness campaigns in the parks. In schools, we target schools majorly because we do not want them to experiment with drug in the first place. We do not want it to get to them before we begin the process of either counseling or rehabilitation, which are also parts of or components of drug demand reduction. And we also prosecute offenders that are arrested. These are the three major things we do. And to this end, this year alone, from January to September, the FCT Strategic Command of the agency arrested 249 drug suspects, seized 14 tons of illicit drug substances. 14 tons. We filed 117 charges in the Federal High Court and recorded 48 convictions so far. This is in addition to the counseling and rehabilitation of 45 drug-dependent persons. Among the arrested persons, 75% are between the ages of 18 to 35. 18 to 35. That is our youth, who are ordinarily supposed to be the insurance of the country's tomorrow, the leaders of tomorrow, are now hooked on drugs. That is not healthy for our nation. So, what are the challenges? Lethargy of the public. There is an apathy and a nonchalant attitude among members of the public, as a result of which they fail to volunteer valuable information to the agency. I think Professor DAUDU mentioned that too. Then there is little or no collaboration between, or cooperation between the law enforcement agencies. All what we do sometimes is just to engage in joint operations when the issue of drug or crime is, has become notorious in a particular place. The FCT has intervened financially, so most times they fund such operations. And then the other challenge we have is that of detention of arrested persons. We most times file charges as constitutionally required of us. But to get the persons arraigned, sometimes it takes up to 9 months. They are in our detention facility. It takes up to 9 months before we can bring them face to face with the courts. We file the charges, they are not assigned. Or sometimes they are assigned, the judge is on assignment elsewhere. Like what happened in Kaduna last year, the judge in court 2 was posted, went for another assignment for the election petitions tribunal. She was there from March, April, till sometime later, last year, she was now elevated to the Court of Appeal. And the charges before her court still remain. The people who were in detention are awaiting arraignment. We had to do a letter to the administrative judge to reassign the matters to his court for the purpose of plea and bail applications in lieu. That was never done. So these are some of the challenges we face. So the converse of those challenges is the solution to what our efforts are. Criminal cases should be given, we say criminal cases should be given priority in court, because most times if you go to court and these matters are never called, we've had instances where we take persons, detainees to court, their matters are listed for arraignment, other cases will be heard, and when it gets to our turn, or when it's about to get to our turn, maybe the judge is weak or tired, so we'll have to take them back and bring them back some other day. So we said, in our concluding part, we said, what constrains behavior and makes it conform with larger collective ends and norms and institutions, including laws and legal frameworks that institutionalize norms. The perfect blend of this institutional and the social designs holds the answer to endemic crime in the FCT. We must embrace our traditional norms and values of hard work, strong family ties and community development, and abandon the pursuit of wealth regardless of which ways and means it is attained. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much. That is our Acting Director, Civil Litigation, Mr. Sege John Toria. We are very grateful. I love the way you ended it, sir. You talk about family values. We are talking about values of hard work, not attaining wealth by all means. These are some intangible factors that have led us to where we are. He painted a very bleak picture and also talked about their challenges with the administration of justice, particularly delayed cases of prosecution. He went through a whole lot. I'm sure his paper will be shared for all those who participated in this program. I found his presentation, though short, very enlightening. Now, let us hear with those who are charged with the enforcement of the VAP Act, which we hear Parliament wants to repeal. Tell us, NAPTIP, what is your experience on the field? What is your contribution? She's a good friend of ours. Let us hear from Hama. I will give you 10 minutes. I know it's short, but please try. Thank you.
I want to start first by acknowledging the eminent chairman of the Rule of Law Foundation, my lords, spiritual and temporal here present, my distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I bring very warm wishes from the Director General of NAPTIP, Binta Lami Adamubelu, OON. It's an honor for us to be here. Last year, we were also invited. I want to acknowledge the honor done to the agency. I'll go straight to the paper. Prevalence of offenses and demographics of offenders in curbing crimes in the Federal Capital Territory. Our own mandate is on violence against persons and trafficking in persons. In the year 2015, March specifically, the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act was enacted. Already, NAPTIP was dealing with the case. We had the mandate to deal on trafficking in persons. But through the Section 44 of the Act, the Violence Against Persons was also added for us to administer, and that one specifically in the Federal Capital Territory. It's been a very eventful ride with violence against persons. A lot of things that we found out that plays out in the Federal Capital Territory from our data is that physical violence that results in physical injury is the most prevalent. It is followed by spousal battery, rape, in that order. So the agency marshaled out plans on how to tackle this problem. We have what we call the 5 Ps. We first of all have the policy that helps us to map out the chart we have to follow. The next is prevention, because we believe that prevention is the best cure. So we believe in sensitization in all the 6 area councils of the Federal Capital Territory. So we engage in sensitizations in schools, in marketplaces, in churches, in mosques, in even in town halls, because we found out that some of these areas are somehow forgotten, that we now engaged in the rural sensitization. We went through all the 6 area councils, and what we found out was very, very incisive, and that was what made us to tailor our operations in facing those areas where we found that crimes were very prevalent. We also prosecute, because NAPTIP is a special agency. We have investigative powers. We also have prosecutorial powers. So we prosecute suspects. We also protect the victims, and that is an essential part of our work. Because we found out that when you don't protect victims, and when you don't like give them the necessary things to make sure that they recover from the trauma of the crime, they become, in subsequent years and months, they become violent themselves because in response to trauma. So we make sure that we offer them psychosocial services. We also partner both locally and internationally. We have NGOs, local NGOs, CSOs, international NGOs that partner with us in our fight against human trafficking. I also want to make a special mention of NDLEA. We have a very special relationship with the agency because we know that some of the time trafficking victims are used as mules to carry drugs. So our collaboration with them is a very important one for the agency. So having mentioned some of the crimes that, that are very prevalent in the FCT, we have also formed ways of trying to make sure that they don't continue. We have formed what we call vanguards in schools, that's in secondary schools. And these are children that we teach what violence against persons is all about, what trafficking in persons is all about. Because we found out that some of the times, some of these children are deceived into, being exploited and being trafficked. And some of the time, when they see crimes being committed, they don't know what to do. But when you sensitize them and they know what it all means, and they know how to refer such cases, you find out that some of those cases are handled even within the school and even outside. So we have what we call vanguards in secondary school. We also have what we call ambassadors in the universities. These are the same kind of people that know about us and work along with NAPTIP. There are so many things that we do in the agency that is not quite the same in other law enforcement agencies, because our victims are given very, very strong support, because we also have them, and we also use them as witnesses in the courts. So some of those like trafficking cases, if we don't treat those victims well, take care of their medical challenges, take care of their psychological challenges, they will not be in a good frame of mind to testify in the law court. Because it is very important that after investigation and identifying a suspect, that suspect is served justice. So the victim is a very integral part of our work. We also have, when we come to demographics of offenders, that's gender and age distribution, we found out that male offenders constitute a significant proportion of those implicated under the VAP Act. Because, like I said before, the physical side of the violence is quite prevalent among the male folk, while the emotional abuse and psychological abuse are more prevalent among the female folk. So this is why most of the offenders are males. Offenders generally range from ages 25 to 50, though a growing number of younger men are also now being engaged in crimes. Then from our studies, we found out that the socioeconomic background of offenders often come from diverse socioeconomic background, because just like the spread of the crime, some of the crime are for the maybe people that are more educated, and some of them are for those that more prevalent for those that are not so educated. For example, when you come to trafficking in persons, we found out that most of the time the people engaged in trafficking in persons are school dropouts and maybe not well educated folk. But when it comes to violence against persons, it's spread out. You can't really say that this is the only one that poor people or not so educated people engage in. And we also have strategic recommendations for curbing crimes in the FCT. We do what we call surveillance. We have officers that go on surveillance and report back to the agency. We have what we call protection officers in the 6 area councils of the FCT. there is 2 protection officer residents in each of the area councils. So those people get cases from the area councils and bring it to the headquarters, and we deal with those cases. Then with that also, we get cases from our collaborators, our people, the agencies we work with, and even the general public, because we know that to fight crime is it has to be holistic. So it's a whole of society and a whole of society kind of game. So everybody has to be involved. You know, some of these crimes that happen, we found out that in FCT, that violence against persons is more prevalent than trafficking in persons. Though trafficking in persons still exists in the FCT, but the violence against persons is more in number. There was a case sometime in Luwe, a young girl that was trafficked to, she was on her way to Spain, but she died on the way. So when that case came to the agency, so many people were like, can such a thing happen in Abuja? But it does happen, because some of us don't really know that, or have a knowledge of the indicators of trafficking in persons. The girl was living in Abuja in Luwe with some of her friends. She came to Abuja to look for work. So friends that she knew back home were the people she was living with. So one of them now came with a story of traveling to Spain to do all this kind of hair braiding and all that, and she was very good at it. So she followed them, and along the way she died. So when that case came to our agency, it was like this case actually happened in Abuja, but it did. So what struck me was the girl's parents didn't even know that she had died, and because she died, it was like, should we prosecute this case or not? But of course, we took on the case and we successfully prosecuted that case and got conviction against a trafficker. So these are some of the things that happen in this FCT. Even internal trafficking now is more than the external trafficking, because people are now more desperate, you know, so the exploitation is quite high. Formerly, we didn't used to hear of organ trafficking, but now it's almost everywhere. We didn't used to hear of tissue and cells trafficking, but it's there. There are cases of students, university students, that are harbored in homes where these traffickers, you know, pump them with hormones and harvest their eggs. They might sell those eggs for as much as 5 million, 10 million, but they'll pay those children maybe 100,000. And it's unfortunate that these things are going on under our very noses. Because we don't know that those things are going on, nobody really takes notice of them, and these traffickers get away unscathed. So it is an important aspect of our citizenship to be aware of our surroundings, to be aware of our environment. Look out for that small child, look out for that child, maybe a neighbor that you hear their screams at night, because spousal battery is also a very bad, a very rampant crime in the FCT. So I'm trying to take both the violence against persons and the trafficking in persons at the same time, because those are the two mandates that we have. So, excuse me. So we encourage people to, you know, take notice. Sometimes you see people traveling in groups, maybe young. Nowadays, there's no age demarcation. Even the trafficker might be younger than the trafficked persons. So they'll be in a group, they'll hold all their travel documents. That trafficker will be in charge of the travel documents, because that's one of their control measures. And then as they are going, most of the time, those victims don't even know where they are going. They might just know, oh, maybe you are going to Norway. They don't know where in Norway they are going. So those are some of the things that you will notice that will make you to ask questions and say, please, what is happening here? And be able to assist. And when it comes to also violence against persons, there are people who have children as house helps, and they maltreat these children. They inflict all kinds of injuries on those children. And most of the time, because we are in the, let's say, civilized world, everybody minds their business. People just go, it's not my business. But it's important for us to observe these things, because that is why we are human. There was a case of a little girl that was living with a lady somewhere in Jabi. This girl was about 13 years old. I don't know what she did, and the madam took her inside her bedroom, locked all the windows, put the radio on, and used razor blade to design her body. So some of these things are things that happen day by day and people don't know. But how did it get to NAPTIP? It was an observant neighbor that noticed that this girl, when she came out to fetch water, was walking with so much pain because the madam had insisted on covering all her wounds so nobody would see. So it was the neighbor that called her and said, this very happy girl, what's the problem? Then the girl just started crying. So when she looked, she now saw water dripping out of her body. And when she pulled up, wound that was almost septic. So that was how she rushed the girl to NAPTIP, and the girl was saved. The case is in court. So some of these things are things that happen, very practical things that happen day by day, and people don't notice. But if we, all of us, whole of society and whole of government, if all of us play our role, we'll be sure to make sure that we stem the tide of violence in the FCT. And also, we also like to rehabilitate victims. That way, I'm just trying to roll all of them together.
Yes, you have about 2 minutes to round up.
Yes, we rehabilitate victims to make sure they're not re-trafficked or re-victimized. Then we have our numbers, our call numbers that you can use and call NAPTIP. We have the one we call 627. That one, and it is no, you don't pay anything to call us with that number, 627. Then we have 070 203. Then we are also on the net, www.naptip.gov.ng. So with that, you can call us anytime, report cases to us, and even give your neighbors, your friends, these call lines so that NAPTIP will come to the aid of the victim. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Ijoma, let's give her another round of applause. Somebody needs the number. If you can call out the number again, 627.
627, then 070 30,000. Let me make it simple. 203. 070 30,000 203. Then the internet number is on the web is www.naptip.gov.ng. Thank you.
Thank you very much, NAPTIP, who is a very, very important partner to the Rule of Law Development Foundation. She said so much, and she covered a lot of issues. I'm sure some of us will have interventions. We'll take interventions in the last 30 minutes and close. But before we take intervention, or we begin the intervention, from Rebecca Emmanuel Balami, who is the Program Officer of Partners West Africa. Let's give her a round of applause. Rebecca, please, you have 10 minutes. Please try 10 minutes. And then if you have a question or comments, please prepare it immediately. Then technically, if we have any questions online, please note them so that I can read them out to the various resource persons. Thank you.
So good afternoon, my lords, sons, and everyone present. Please permit me to stand on the existing protocol. I bring us greetings from our Executive Director, Mrs. Kemi Okenyedo, of Rule of Law Empowerment Initiative, also known as Partners West Africa, Nigeria. I'll start by saying so many people are involved in rural-urban migration in the FCT because of greener pasture. They think they will get jobs, money, brighter future, etc. So I have this case of one chance victim. Because of the inflation of fuel and the rest, the person decided to drop his car. But at 3 different occasions, this person has entered one chance, has fallen into the victim of one chance. So at the end of the day, the man decided to just fuel the car to keep going with his car. It's safer than entering the commercial car, though it's is expensive, but that's what he finally agreed to do. So for P1, we have, just like NDLE was saying that the judges or the magistrates find it difficult to write, they get tired. So for P1, we supported some FCT courts with technology. So we supported Magistrate Chukwuemeka's court, Justice Babangida's court in Jabi, Magistrate Folashade, Justice Adepoju of Gwagwalada High Court with a technology called QSoft De Novo. So this technology has been used, is a speech-to-text technology that accelerate court proceedings, thereby allow the courts to process more cases in limited time. So you will see that some judges and magistrates doesn't write, they just hear the proceedings, it records them, and it's a speech-to-text. So they accommodate more cases with this technology. So we also have an intervention that we carried in the FCT, a physical awareness and radio programs, where we sensitize the community of cases of GBV, like the NAPTIP said, on the VAP, the ACJL, the rights of persons under the law, arrest, detention, and the shorty, women can stand and shorty and the rest. So by doing that, people get aware of their rights under these laws. And also we provide pro bono legal representation to victims that are indigent and marginalized members of the society. That's by doing what is called the PDSS scheme, placing some lawyers, duty solicitors at the police station to provide free legal representative for those people that don't have, that are indigent, and also to also implement the ACJL that provides for detention time limits at the police station. So we also provide capacity building for our police officers and other law enforcement agencies on the implementation of the ACJA and other laws on aspects of arrest of victims and other provisions in the law. So here, P1 also improve data management and case tracking. A digital system for tracking cases and data will enhance the ability of law enforcement and the judiciary to coordinate responses to cases and ensure that offenders are prosecuted within reasonable time limits. So in conclusion, we see that the Federal Capital Territory exemplifies both the successes and challenges of Nigerian approach to crime fighting with diverse demographics and a complex crime landscape. The FCT has employed targeted policing, judicial reforms, and administrative measures to curb this crime. However, resource limitations, specialized training needs, and the socioeconomic drivers of crime pose ongoing challenges. By investing in community policing, enhancing judicial efficiency, and addressing socioeconomic factors, the FCT crime fighting model can be further refined and potentially serve as a blueprint for other regions in Nigeria. Comprehensive data collection, enhanced technological integration, and strengthened partnership with local communities will be critical in optimizing crime-fighting efforts and promoting a safer, more just society. Thank you.
Thank you very much. From Rebecca. And now, we have come to the end of the discussion. Thank you, Rebecca. Please, let's give Rebecca a round of applause. She talked about comprehensive data analysis, partnerships, investment, and we see all you are doing. I can testify too, being one of the branches in the FCT of MBA, as to the work that P1 is doing. You are not only training law enforcement agents, you're also training lawyers. Particularly, some of our lawyers have benefited from the police duty solicitor scheme, where a lot of our younger lawyers are engaged in ensuring the aspect of access to justice. And I love the angle she came from, which is that access to justice, ensuring that the courts are fully equipped and technology is provided in terms of voice to text. And I understand there are other organizations doing so. Unfortunately, sometimes our judges also do not want to accept the technological advancements in the FCT. I've gone on several visits myself where we want to introduce some of these measures, and the judges still want to write longhand. It's something I think we should also review critically. But thank you very much from P1 for that paper. So we'll be taking contributions now. I think the papers were very exhaustive and discussion were there, but if anybody has any contribution, does anyone have any contribution in the room? Okay, yes, we have one hand up. Where's the session manager? Where is the session manager for this session? Well, I will do it. Yes.
Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chairman, senior advocates present, my lords also present. My name is Olisa Oluwaseun. My intervention, basically, I sincerely appreciate all the discussants' very apt presentations. My intervention, it comes like a suggestion or a recommendation, let me put, is that there is need for us to focus more on the causatives of crimes. When we pay more attention to the causes and address those causes, it will help us in reducing the rates of crimes. I've done research across various jurisdictions, studied the different administrative systems in different countries, and you see that countries with low crime rates, these are things that they actually put into consideration. What are the causes of crime? I love when NDLA made reference to the fact that drugs lead to crime. Yes, let's look at how we curb the use of drugs. Let's look at how there is more rehabilitation and what have you. But the costs of crimes is what we need to really address. When the problem of unemployment is addressed, economic hardship, amongst other things that cause crimes, we would do well to see to it that crime is properly addressed. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll round up with Monday Ajay, Chairman of MBA Buhari Emeritus. And then if anyone has any questions, please send them to the Secretariat and we'll get them across to the various resource persons because of time. So, Mr. Ajay.
Thank you. I must commend the person from the NAPTID and the NDLA for a job well done. But there is one thing I've quickly observed that is affecting most of us who may be willing to give useful information, is about how do you protect your informant. Because if I come to you now to report my neighbor or my landlord who have not paid his rent as at when due about the crime that is committing, especially child abuse, then that's a signal for me to leave the house the next day because I've done evil in quote to him. Now back to the NDLA. The business of drug is not an easy business. Even the advanced countries, they are struggling to survive. They are cartel and they don't care about lives. The moment you are a problem, a challenge to them, they are really ready to terminate your life at any time, at any point. Now, if I wake up and I come to your office to inform you that in my Sankwala there are some boys who are into this whatever, and they keep on disturbing us every day. And before getting to my house back, I'm hearing a voice that, okay, you want to go and report? Okay, Shebi, we know you. Come inside and stay now. Am I not in trouble in the course of solving society problem? So what are the measures put in place to put an end to some of this so that you can protect some of this information that will give you some of this useful information? Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Please, can we have the mic to Mr. Anozie Obi? Please, NAPTIP and NDLA, note that question. The question is on informants. How do you protect informants if we are to volunteer information? Thank you.
I'm just going to talk about trafficking in persons. I didn't realize it was this bad in FCT until recently. I was briefed to handle pro bono a case from Gwagwalada. A young boy was busy luring other children, and there's a woman who was trading in these children 200,000, about 14 kids on the whole. For the persons I'm defending, who claimed that she's an old woman, she does not have, her children are grown up, and then she just asked for kids to stay with her. They brought 2 for her. And when they asked her, she apparently innocently, somebody said, oh, I'll bring 2 kids for you. They brought for her. It was that simple. And then when the police invited her, she quickly took them. Imagine those kids were taken to some ritualists and others. But this is, the trial has not been able to go on because the minor who is the one who is attracting and luring these kids has to be tried under special circumstances. I realize that the police is overwhelmed. This is prosecuted by the police. I think you need to put a little searchlight in the area councils. There's a lot of trading in human beings going on now. I thought it was a joke, but I heard in case alone, there are about 14 kids involved. And we have not made progress in 4 months in that case. So we have to look at the area councils and know that something is going on. Human beings are being traded every day for pittance. Really, some were 50. You have one paid 50,000 for the 2 she got. As little as that. Some sell their own children. And I read of another young man who said they harvest a kidney and they sell the kidneys for 300,000, 30,000 herself in this Abuja. So there's a whole lot going on. You have to collaborate with the police and to see how this can be stemmed. It's a very serious challenge. Some of us are protected because we live in secure areas, but a large number of persons are vulnerable, and so much is going wrong. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we can now call on NAPTIP and NDLA. Let's take NDLA first. Your response to some of the issues that have been raised, then I end with NAPTIP. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. The 2 issues have been raised here. One is that of the vulnerability of people who, the people who volunteer information, their protection, their safety or protection, and then how deadly these people can be. That is quite correct. But we have a process or procedure for giving information and receiving information. Most times, people who get attacked by the drug guys are people who often brag that, yes, I am going to deal with you. I have gone to give information about you. They do not keep their information confidential. They are the ones who expose themselves majorly. If you approach the NDLA that, yes, this is happening here, this is happening there, they know how to handle that issues. Informant confidentiality is one of the key trainings we receive right from your basic course. informant protection, how you recruit your informant, how you maintain him, and how you protect his identity. It's something so basic that no agent of the NDLEA will willingly divulge such information. If you do so, you've lost that informant. You've lost the informant. And we know how deadly these people can be. Sometime in July, one of our agents, officers rather, was killed in Gwarimpa here now. They went out. They were so few in number. So when they saw that they could overpower them, they did so. And others escaped, but this particular one could not escape. And they stabbed him to death. They stabbed him in very bad places. He died. Just last month, 2 was thrown into water in Doma, in Nasarawa here. So they can be very violent. They can be wide because you are trying to take away their means of survival or what they consider a business. They call it, the substance we seize from them, they call it goods. They don't refer to it as illicit substances. They say it's good. Please feel free. We even have our line on tele. AIT, I don't have it offhand now. Yes. If you watch AIT News, you will see it there. You can call. The person who will take the call is the Director of Media Services. So he's not just an ordinary person. He's a management person who understands the importance of information or intelligence to the operations of the NDLEA generally. So feel free. Or I can give you my number too. If you have an issue, just call me in confidence, and then I will direct you on who to meet, or I will direct somebody to come and meet you. But make sure the information is genuine. You don't do it just because you don't like the face of somebody, or your landlord, or somebody you have quarreled with a neighbor. You feel you can use the NDLEA to settle the score. You will not like what our reaction. If it turns out that that person is not involved in drugs, you won't like our reaction. So be sure that what you are telling us is true. Thank you very much. Okay, my number 080 36 53 9057. John Toyila Atsehe. If you have Truecaller, the moment you dial it, you will see it. John Toyila Atsehe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. If Ijoma can help us round up.
Okay, I kind of re-echo what my colleague here has said, because it is a very integral part of our training. It's even captured in our act. You can't divulge the identity of an informant. Sometimes people come by way of requesting for information, this, give you the investigation report and all that. We usually say no, because you might, in so doing, divulge the information of who brought the case to us. Because by just saying maybe somebody, so the person might just put 2 and 2 together and know who it is. So it is very, very important to protect the identity of an informant, because in some cases it can lead to death. And anybody, because from these numbers, we know whoever is manning it. So if you tell us this call came so and so time, we know who got the call. So if the information leaks, definitely is that person that will be held responsible. So nobody can try it in NAPTEP. I assure you of that. And my number, I can also give you my number. It's also on the net. Even sometimes I get calls from outside the state. So it doesn't really matter. The important thing is that if you see something, just say it. Just report to us. It's not, we won't feel bad if you go there and there is nothing. We'll even be happy for our own case. If you see something and you think is a crime under the TIP or under VAP Act, just report. If we go there and it's not, well and good. But just report. We want to make sure that we bring down violence in the society. Thank you. 081 081 20 63 8454. My name is Ijoma Amugo.
Thank you very much, Joma. Let's give her a round of applause. And that brings us to the end of day 2. On behalf of the Rule of Law Development Foundation, let me first and foremost thank all our panelists, particularly those who took the afternoon session, starting from our lead presenter, Professor Benedicta Daudu, who also gave us a very well-researched paper, and I'm sure we'll circulate. Let's give her a round of applause, Benedicta Daudu. She's still online with us. As for the police and the Commissioner for Police, I know we have a new one. There's need for us to do some engagement at the Rule of Law Development Foundation. The challenge we find sometimes is that they are always being changed. And so by the time you engage with one, another one has come. So let me also appreciate our good friend, the General Counsel and Secretary Legal Service of the FCT, Salman Dako. Thank you. Let's give him a round of applause. He has given us a thorough review of the topic. He looked at the demographics of offenders. He took it from a policy. He took it from administrative level, even to the extent of legislation. He did so much on the topic. And he has shown us that indeed, the model for crime fighting, if in FCT, if fully implemented, will reduce or curb some of the menaces we face. We also appreciate Mr. Ase John Torilla, the Acting Director, Civil Litigation of the NDLA. Thank you very much. You have drawn our attention to the role illicit drugs play in violent crimes and other crimes. Thank you for extending your hand of fellowship. We will be confident, and I can assure you that we here will reach out to you to tap from your knowledge and wealth of experience in moving this country forward. Let's give him a round of applause, please. Also, Ijoma of NAPTIP, she was with us last year, she was with us, she's now with us this year. NAPTIP, all I will say is that we will continue to support you in what you are doing. You have highlighted some of the challenges we face right here in our backyard and the need for us to be more vigilant in what we do. We don't take that lightly. Then also to P1. P1, one of our partner organizations, doing a lot in administration of criminal justice. Thank you for sharing with us what you are doing on the field. Let's give Rebecca also a round of applause. So, you agree with me that we have done a lot today. We started with looking at the Money Laundering Act and contrasting it with client-attorney privilege. Now we went into evaluation of crime rates in FCT and looked at the strategies in reducing it. Tomorrow, we shift our attention to evidence taking and the recording of evidence. And one of our resource persons is here, is Honorable Justice O.A. Ajile retired. Let's give him a round of applause. He has been here, and he's an expert in this area. We are aware that there are recent decisions that have come out in this area, and he will be reviewing the state of the law, particularly Section 15 of Aclrc, and what the law entails in terms of current legislative and judicial materials on the issue of recording of evidence, because without the evidence of suspects, we cannot fight crime. And he will also be joined by Professor S.T. Horn, who is also another expert in this area of evidence law. We also hope that my learned brother, ACP Simon Law, will be here too to talk about the practical reality and the attitude of the police towards the issue of taking of evidence. They are often accused of just forcing confessional statements and not doing forensic investigation. I hope that he will be here so that we can have a balanced conversation on this topic so that we can move forward. We also have Peter Nwatu there. Then we move into issue of trial and presentation of cases in court. And we have courtroom experts to do justice. We have Olumiwa Akimboro. We have Honorable Justice Celestine Odo, former Director of Magistrates here in FCT, D.K. Udena, Osagi Isiramen, and the lead paper is presented by Dayo Adidiji, SAN, who is the managing partner of JB DAUDU and Co. So you agree with me that tomorrow we have an action-packed program again, which will be laced with a lot of information and nuggets of knowledge. Let us endeavor to try and come early. Let us try and come early so that we will not be ending at 4:30. I am not happy that we are closing at this time. So please, if it is 9 for 9, let it be 9 for 9. I am also advising the Secretariat to tell the speakers to come at 9. We will be here by 9. So please, I want to once more thank the audience. The audience, please give yourselves a round of applause. And to our colleagues online, our invited guests, also particularly at our viewing center in LOKOJA. Abdul, I'm sure you down there in LOKOJA, you must have had an insightful session. Hello, Abdul, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes, I'm sure you have had an insightful session. I understand our Honorable Justice Moses Guantana is there. Please, we send him our warm regards. I don't know if he has left. Our regards to all my lords, all our worships there of the magistrate and directors there, and our Solicitor General who was with us. Thank you, Abdul.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Yes, so we will be having lunch, a very late lunch, almost getting to dinner. And the lunch will be served as usual upstairs for our resource persons and senior lawyers, while the rest of us will go to the food court outside to have our lunch. So without much ado, this day 2 is over, and we end with the national anthem and then group photographs of all the panelists. Thank you very much.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our only native land. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians old and proud to serve our sovereign motherland. Our flag shall be a symbol that truth and justice reign. In peaceful battle honored, and this we count as gain. To hang unto our children a banner without stain. O God of all creation, grant this our one request. Help us to build a nation where no man is oppressed, and so with peace and plenty, Nigeria may be blessed.
Thank you very much. We now go for our lunch, and then we take photographs. Can the photographer please arrange the resource persons, please? We'll use this location for the group photograph. So the photographer should please come around and arrange us for the photography.